Module 3, Episode 2. So how many relationships do you really have? How many people do you know right now that really care about you both personally and professionally? How many people would show up for you in a case of real need? This is a really important question because when you're in transition, this is when you find out who your friends really are. To put it in perspective, again, think about your social networks, people that you know on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. When you apply the new standard of relationship, this definition of someone you're intentionally working on a relationship with those networks of people you might be connected to on social media, all of a sudden, the number of real relationships shrinks down dramatically. So how do you feel about this? We've asked you this in the past, and how you feel about this is really important because it's the number one predictor of how you're going to act moving forward. So, something we have to be upfront with you about. Creating and nurturing relationships takes work. How do you feel about that effort? If you are an introvert, the thought of creating and nurturing relationships, well, it might seem completely overwhelming. And for both introverts and extroverts, you're going to struggle at times because it's hard to prioritize the time and the focus that nurturing a new relationship requires. So these obvious issues acknowledged, we're going to tell you right now, you need to commit to this process of nurturing relationships. You need to actually develop the skills and the intentional focus to make this a priority. Why? Well, right now you might be in transition, but once you're through transition, this is a skill for life. You can never have too many friends, and there's never enough job security. So once you learn this skill, it needs to become a skill for life. And we want to continue the conversation by asking the question, well, what happens if I get into a situation where people know I'm in transition? And how do I deal with that? How do I address this with tact? So here's what you want to do. You want to say, yes, I'm in transition, but I'm not looking for another job. In fact, I'm really looking for a true opportunity. I define an opportunity as something that really excites me. It allows me to add strong value to any person or company that I might be working with. And yes, if I came across an opportunity, I certainly would entertain it. However, right now, I'm focused on building my relational network for the purpose of meeting new people. Since I'm building my relationships, many of these people that I might be meeting with might be your next new client. They might be your friend, they might be your hire, they might be a strategic partnership for you. And I'd be happy to introduce you and connect you to people that might be of benefit to you. Here's the kind of people I'd like to meet. Do you know of anybody who might be a good fit for me inside your network? And how can I help you with my network? This idea of how people connect to create value is really well illustrated by a story that my partner tells about his early days in recruiting. Frank was really struggling to distinguish himself as a recruiter in his early career days. And he had hired a guy to come work on his back deck. And he, was kind of moping around that Saturday, I guess, when this guy came over and was really trying to figure out, how do I distinguish myself? What do I do? And he was really caught up in this mental conundrum when this guy came to work on his back deck. So Frank's inside and is noticing it's hot out there, and man, this guy could use probably a drink of water. So he goes to his kitchen, instead of getting water, grabs a big glass of iced tea and heads out the door to give it to the deck builder. He starts a casual conversation with the deck builder, who asks him, well, what do you do? So Frank tells him about his job as a recruiter and also shares with him that he's working on distinguishing himself and his abilities in his field, and is looking, to really make a difference in people's lives through this particular career, but is working on distinguishing himself. The deck builder listens carefully, takes note, and then follows up a few days later and introduces Frank to a few people that the deck builder knows. Now, what's intriguing? The deck builder, the guy who Frank hired to work on a Saturday afternoon on his back porch that he just happened to take an iced tea to, that guy ended up connecting him to the most known and high-profile names in his book of clients. And from that moment, When Frank understood that connecting with anybody, regardless of their station in life, it could make a huge difference for him personally and professionally, that story changed everything for Frank, because from that moment forward, Frank saw every single person as a potential for sincere connection, not just the obvious people who you might be attracted to think are important. My point in telling you this, who is your deck builder? Who's the casual person that you run into all the time that you really need to be getting to know personally and professionally? You guys might be 1 degree of separation apart from the person that you really need to meet. Who is your deck builder?